Ever get one of those cloud bills? You know, the ones that look like they're in a whole other language? And the numbers, oh boy, the numbers just keep going up, up, up.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Those bills can be a real head scratcher.
It's like a puzzle you don't even know how to start solving. But what if I told you there's a way to not just understand those bills, but to actually make them work for you? Not just about cutting costs either, but really using your cloud budget strategically.
Now that sounds interesting. What's the secret?
It's called FinOps. Think of it like, financial GPS for the cloud. And today, we're going deep on how to build a FinOps practice that really clicks, and we're using the Manage the FinOps Practice section from the FinOps Foundation framework as our roadmap.
Okay, so using FinOps to get a grip on cloud costs, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
But it's got to be more than just, let's save money. You need a plan, a structure, right?
You hit the nail on the head. That's why this Manage the FinOps Practice section is so important. It gives you that blueprint for success, shows you how to make it work long term.
Gotcha. And one of the key things this framework talks about is putting together a dedicated FinOps team. They become like the central hub for all things cloud spending in your organization, keeping everything running smoothly.
Makes sense having a dedicated team, but when we say dedicated team, what does that actually look like on the ground? I mean, would a small startup need the same kind of team as, say, a huge company?
That's a really good question, and it shows how FinOps needs to be adaptable. For a smaller startup, it might be just one dedicated FinOps person who can handle different aspects. But for a larger organization, well, they might need a whole team with FinOps analysts and engineers, maybe even someone specifically to get other departments on board.
So it's about tailoring the team to fit the company, not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Exactly. That's what I like about this framework. It gives you direction without being too rigid. But here's the thing. You could have the best FinOps team in the world, but there's one more ingredient that's absolutely essential.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's this secret sauce that takes a FinOps practice from good to great?
It's all about collaboration. This framework really emphasizes that teams need to collaborate and that everyone takes ownership of their cloud usage. These aren't just empty words. They're really crucial because FinOps impacts so many different parts of an organization.
It really is a team effort, isn't it? Like everyone's got skin in the game when it comes to cloud costs.
You got it. It's like, say your marketing team, they're getting ready for this huge campaign, right? They need more cloud resources, which makes sense. But if they're not thinking about FinOps, they might not realize how much those decisions impact the bottom line. Or your engineering team, they're building a cool new app, super innovative, but are they really considering the cost of the cloud services they're using? How it all adds up?
It's about getting everyone on the same page, speaking the same language when it comes to cloud spending, which I imagine could be a challenge in
Oh,
itself.
absolutely. And that's where having those clear processes, policies, those workflows that we talked about, that's where that's really helpful. Like giving everyone a map to navigate the cloud cost landscape.
And that's when we start to see the bigger picture of FinOps, yeah. It's more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about shifting the entire culture around cloud spending.
You nailed it. I mean, even the framework asks this question directly. How do we establish a healthy FinOps culture around our cloud use? That's something every organization has to ask itself because that cultural shift is everything.
Because you can have the best tools in place, the most talented team, but if that mindset isn't there, if people aren't bought in, then FinOps becomes this uphill battle.
You said it. And building that culture, well, it takes time, communication, consistent effort from the top down.
So what are some practical things organizations can do to really cultivate that FinOps culture?
Training is huge. You've got to give people the knowledge, the skills to make smart decisions about how they're using the cloud. That might mean workshops, online training, even just like lunch and learns, whatever works. And communication has to go both ways. Leadership, they have to be transparent about the cloud costs, how they connect to the bigger business strategy. And people, they need to feel like they can ask questions, bring up concerns, share ideas.
It's about creating that open space for dialogue about cloud costs where no one feels afraid to speak up.
Exactly. And last but not least, you need ongoing support. Maybe that's mentorship programs or communities of practice within the organization, or even dedicated FinOps office hours where people can get their questions answered. It's all about creating an environment where FinOps isn't seen as a burden, but as a shared responsibility, something that drives value for the business.
And that takes us back to that concept we were talking about earlier, intersecting disciplines. How the source material really highlights those connections between different departments when it comes to cloud costs.
Right, that really resonated with me too, because It makes you think outside your own little box, your own team, your own role. Like if you're in marketing, understanding how your campaigns impact cloud costs, well, that could make you a better marketer. You can optimize your resources, get more bang for your buck. Or in engineering, being mindful of cloud costs can lead to more efficient, cost-effective solutions, which helps everyone in the long run.
It's like suddenly the lights come on and everyone realizes, wait a minute, what I do every day, it actually affects our cloud costs. I have a part to play in this whole FinOps thing.
Exactly. It's about giving everyone a stake in FinOps, no matter what their job title is or what department they're in.
This has been a really interesting deep dive, and I feel like we've gone, well, pretty deep. As we wrap things up here, what are some of the key takeaways our listeners should remember about building a successful FinOps practice?
First things first, and this is important, remember that FinOps, it's a journey, not a destination. We're not trying to reach some perfect way of spending on the cloud, but it's about constantly getting better, adapting, always looking for ways to optimize.
So less about crossing a finish line and more about enjoying the process of improvement along the way.
Exactly. And second, this goes back to what we talked about before, building that culture of collaboration where everyone feels responsible. FinOps really works when everyone's on the same team, moving in the same direction.
It's amazing how much more you can get done when those walls between departments come down and everyone's working together.
Absolutely. And finally, never lose sight of the big picture. Why are you using the cloud in the first place? What are you trying to achieve as a business? And how can FinOps help you get there more effectively?
Right. It's not about pinching pennies just to save money. It's about making sure every dollar you spend in the cloud is actually moving you closer to your business goals.
100%. When you start thinking about FinOps that way, it becomes this really powerful tool, It can help drive innovation, make you more agile, and ultimately help your business grow.
This has been so insightful, and I know our listeners are going to want to keep learning. For those who want to really dig into this, manage the FinOps practice domain, where should they go?
The FinOps Foundation website, that's the place to be. They break down everything about this domain. They've got examples, best practices, tons of resources to help you on your FinOps journey.
Awesome. We'll make sure to link that in the show notes. And one last thought for our listeners to chew on. Remember that idea of intersecting disciplines. As you go about your day, think about your own role, your own little corner of the organization. What unique perspective do you bring to the table when it comes to managing cloud costs? You might be surprised how connected we all are in this cloud-driven world.
Great point to end on. FinOps needs everyone's input, and when everyone feels empowered, the possibilities are endless.
Couldn't agree more. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into the world of FinOps. Thanks for exploring with us today. And remember, managing those cloud costs doesn't have to be a mystery. With the right approach, the right team, and the right mindset, you can really make the cloud work for you, all while keeping your finances in check.